So when you find that you've been in a relationship for a very long time and you can't meet the members of his family, it's a challenge.
Absolutely.
Because maybe what that tells you is the fact that he's probably got a wife, he's probably in a committed relationship somewhere else, and what you are effectively is a side chick. Okay, so he's having his jollies on with you, but then when he's done with you, he goes back to his wife.
Hey Authentic Nation, welcome to our channel where we talk everything faith, family and finances. Hey my king.
How are you, Sida? You okay?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. It's been a good day. I'm really excited. I'm excited about our session today.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
Yes, so today we are talking about relationship red flags. What are some of the things you need to pay attention to? And know that it's not a carnival. It's an alarm for you to take action and make some changes, make some decisions, get out if you need to get out. What are the relationship red flags that you and I need to pay attention to?
Every time we talk about red flags, it's a really exciting session because through many years of counseling people in relationships, you realize this, the fact that people see the warning signs, they see the red signs, but for one reason or another, they decide to ignore them. And of course, if you ignore a warning sign, you do it to your own peril. So what we want to talk about today is the reason why you should identify those red flags, but most importantly, make or take action when you see them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of the reasons why we ignore red flags in a relationship is because we're in love. We're in love. And maybe this person checks all the boxes, is the perfect, ideal, beautiful, handsome person. I didn't expect someone like this. I didn't expect things to go this way for me. And so you ignore certain things because you're desperate. I want to be loved. I want to be in love. All my friends are in love. My friends are getting married. My friends are married. I'm the only one left. And we ignore a red flag.
And I think you raise a good point. There's a lot of pressure on people in relationships. A lot of it is peer pressure. So my friends, all of the people that I grew up with, they're in relationships now. My parents are asking me a lot of questions. When is it going to be your turn? When are you going to get married? When are you going to settle down? And sometimes you find yourself in a relationship with somebody, deep down that this person is not quite right for you because you can see those warning signs. But again, we often give in to the pressure because I don't want to have to start again. I don't want to have to explain this to my parents. I don't want to have to go and start going on dating apps or going to the club or wherever it is that you find the people that you date. And so what we sometimes do is we invariably settle and think, okay, I can see this and I can see this is going to be a problem, but you know what? Hopefully, let me just brush it under the carpet and hope that it will magically go away. And it never does. If anything, the problems, they magnify. And the longer you are invested in a relationship and the longer that you've been there, then the consequences of that are much more dire.
So true. So I think we need to pay attention to pressure and not bow down to societal norms or even family pressures. Because I think one of the things we have learned the longer we've been alive is that our lives are lived in chapters, in seasons. And one person's season and lane is not my lane.
Correct.
And we don't all grow and mature at the same time. And so don't allow people to rush you into something that you're not ready for. Another relationship red flag that I really think we need to pay attention to in that dating phase. Remember, we always say dating is a fact-finding mission. Dating is a fact-finding mission. And you're dating this person. He hasn't put a ring on it. He hasn't asked your father, your family for your hand in marriage. You're not even engaged. You're dating. But it's the anger. It's the anger, the type of anger that you find intimidating. The type of anger that's a little bit uncontrollable. The type of anger that scares you. We're human. We all get upset. We all get angry. But there's an irrational level of anger that makes you feel unsafe. If ever you feel unsafe, that's a red flag for you to be careful of.
I think it's an important one because unfortunately what happens is if a person is able to display violent levels of anger when you're still dating, you can be sure that behind closed doors when you're married, you might be the victim of serious domestic abuse. And you need to pay attention to that because even the scripture says you should not make friends with an angry man.
That's right.
That's letting you know that people who are angry, they are prone to outbursts of wrath. They are prone to doing things where they are out of control. And sometimes what that does is it manifests itself in, like I said, physical violence. And physical violence can lead to all kinds of things, including death. So you've got to really pay attention and say to yourself, you know something? Yes, I think this person is amazing, but I need to focus on this. And it's funny, we're not talking about it in the context of relationships, like dating relationships or anything. But even in business, we've had situations with people that we've been in relationship with, and they're people who are extraordinarily angry. And what we've had to do is actually step away from those relationships and say, we appreciate you. I think we could make a lot of money together, but your anger is out of control. And I pay attention to scripture, and I pay attention to the warning signs. That's a warning sign. It's going to create problems in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another relationship red flag.
One of the big ones for me is when you don't know any members of his family or her family, by the way. And so, you try, maybe you've been dating for a significant period of time. You're trying to connect, say, okay, introduce me to members of your family because we've been together for a while. I want to kind of get a feel for who you are. Because I always say this about men specifically, and guys, I'm not trying to sell out our position here, but I always say that men are very good salesmen. And so men can sell you anything, especially about who they are. But how you get to know who a person is not just by observing them, but by really getting to understand the family that he comes from, even the family that she comes from. Because when you meet other members of the family, you'll very quickly get a sense of who they are. You'll be able to observe how he relates to his mother, how he relates to his sisters. Are you with me?
Absolutely.
Because that's going to be a keen insight into how he potentially will relate to you as a woman. And so when you find that you've been in a relationship for a very long time and you can't meet the members of his family, it's a challenge.
Absolutely.
Because maybe what that tells you is the fact that he's probably got a wife, he's probably in a committed relationship somewhere else, and what you are effectively is a side chick.
Absolutely.
Okay. So he's having his jollies on with you, but then when he's done with you, he goes back to his wife. And so not just the fact that you haven't met members of his family, but maybe you haven't gone to where he lives. When you guys are meeting up, you're meeting up in hotels, you're meeting up in motels, maybe you're meeting up at your house, but anytime you suggest going to his house, he's got one excuse or another. Oh, it's untidy, it's dirty, it's messy, whatever the explanation is. If those two are very, very glaring signs.
I think that's such a glaring one. I mean, for you to date someone for 6 months, a year, 18 months, and not know where he or she lives is total insanity.
For sure.
Especially when you guys are talking about making this commitment a serious commitment, a lifelong commitment, a marriage, and you don't know anything. You don't know the neighborhood. You don't know his apartment number. You don't know her house address. You don't know a single thing about her family. She's very secretive about them. That's a huge red flag that you've got to be so cautious about. And I love what you said about how he relates to the women in his life, his mom, his aunties, his sisters. It's a great indicator how he will relate to you. The way he talks about the women in his life is a great indicator how he will relate to you. The way she talks about the men in her life is a great indicator how she'll relate to you. Whether you will ever get any respect or you'll be fighting about relationship, about respect from the very get-go. How she even relates to the women in her life. So her sisters, her mom, her friends, if she's very toxic about them, she's going to be toxic to your mom as well. She's going to be toxic to your sister as well. These are real things that you need to pay attention to.
I think another one that flows out of that, Sarah, is somebody who never has anything positive to say about any of the relationships that they've been in.
Yeah.
Everybody's wrong. Oh, so-and-so did this to me, then he did this to me, then she did this to me, and this is what they said, and this is what they did. And so they come to you and they want to paint a picture of somebody who's a victim of people out there who've been terrible to them, but they as far as they're concerned, they haven't done anything wrong. And one thing that we always used to say is if you've been in a lot of relationships and none of those relationships have worked, and you are the common denominator, chances are that you're the one who's got the problem. Yeah. So I know it's easy for us to, when we're in love, because those gooey feelings in relationships, they're really awesome, but it's very easy for you, especially in the formative days of a relationship, to ignore that warning sign, because somehow you magically believe that you're going to be the solve all for all of that person's problems. But the reality is you're more likely than not just to add and to become another statistic, another person who's done exactly what all of these other people have done to her. And not necessarily because you're doing anything wrong, but maybe there's something in her mind or his mind that convinces them that they're the victim, and these are the warning signs that they need to look out for. So they're looking at you and thinking, oh, the moment you've been in a relationship at a length of time, if she sees anything that she remotely reminds her of the relationship she was in, she then says, okay, I feel that this relationship is going down this road. And then before you know it, you're just another statistic to the many people who disappointed her. So what I'm basically saying is you've got to be very mindful that you're not with somebody who has never got anything good to say about anybody else.
Other people.
Yeah.
Another relationship red flag, and the ladies are not going to like me for this. If you become her source, you meet a woman and she's got no plan B. She's got no plan A, let alone a plan B, and she's waiting for you to be her source.
Sure.
That's a relationship red flag, because if there's no capacity or no ability to dream within her heart for herself, and no ability to get out there and do for herself, you may be inheriting someone who'll be dead weight all your life. It's the same thing, ladies. If he has no desire to dream, no desire to grow, he's not ambitious, there's nothing, you sit down and you ask each other, what are your dreams, what are your aspirations? These are things we asked each other in our early dating years, even as teenagers. We asked each other, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? And when you're listening and someone is waiting to inherit his dad's business, when his dad dies, do a run-up, because he's got no dream outside of his dad's accomplishments. If someone is waiting for you to be their be-all, and you're paying her rent, you're paying for her hair, you're paying for her makeup, you're paying for her clothes, you're paying everything. Literally, she's using you as a cash point, and you need to be careful of that. Am I saying it's not possible for two people who are not working, or one of them is not working and the other is, to date? That's not what I'm saying. It's possible, but you've got to have a dream. You've got to have a level of ambition. Maybe you're in between jobs, and that's all right. You will get a job. You understand? Maybe things have just not been that great for you, but you've actually got an idea and a plan that you're trying to follow through. No one wants to inherit a bag of just lead, a bag of bricks that's going absolutely nowhere.
You got to be very careful about being Superman. And Superman is a great superhero, but he's a mythical hero. Are you with me? And in the formative stages of a relationship, it feels like an awesome thing to be able to say, I will come to the rescue of every issue that
Zorro in.
But one of the challenges that invariably happens along the lines, it becomes exhausting, it becomes draining. And really what you want is, you want to be in a relationship where you come together, you bring mutual value. Are you with me? You bring different things to the table, but you don't want to be the person who has to have all of the creativity, and to your point, who has to have all of the vision. It's great when two people can come together and they envision one another, they dream together, they imagine the future that they want together. Instead of somebody who comes and says, so, what are you planning for this family? You're like, I don't know, what do you want? What have you got in mind? And then he just runs off, or she just runs off whatever you are bringing to the table. You got to come together, and you both have to dream. You have to dream together.
That's awesome. Another relationship red flag is when there's no full disclosure, and then you find out about a sordid past, yet someone said you were their first guy, you were their first girl. A sordid past, or also no full disclosure even about a person's health status. And then you find out, you have to find things out afterwards. Or maybe you're at the house, at the flat, and you're finding all these meds, and he or she has not given you full disclosure. That is the biggest red flag ever. You need to sit down, you need to confront them and talk to them, especially if you are potentially in danger. Sexually transmitted diseases, depending on what you found. It's important to give full disclosure right from the get-go.
I think especially now, these days we've got so many diseases that are rampant, and when it comes to your medical history, these are conversations that you need to have as a couple right at the very beginning. They may be uncomfortable, but they're necessary. And I think if you're in a relationship with somebody and they don't want to disclose certain bits of information, then I think it is a massive red flag, because potentially we've heard so many stories, for example, of people who carry any manner, of diseases, and then they impregnate other people, or they pass on those diseases to them, and you can actually kill people because you're not willing to be honest about what you find, where you find yourself.
A punishable offense.
It is.
You can go to prison in some jurisdictions.
It's a criminal offense.
It's a criminal offense.
It is a criminal offense. So you have to, again, have a lot of those. We always say this. If you've listened to us for any length of time, we always talk in our videos about having those difficult conversations and being very honest and transparent at the beginning of your relationship. But if you've got somebody who's very cagey and they don't want to share certain bits of information, chances are that there's stuff that is detrimental to the vibrancy of your potential relationship.
That's right. I think the last one I'll add, humans connect based on things that are similar sometimes. We're attracted to each other because of the same beliefs on topics like politics and religion and education, and basically putting the world to rights. And if we're Christians, so I'm going to speak from the Christian perspective. If you're a Christian and the person you think you want to do your life with is diametrically opposed to what you believe in, you are going to have problems. The scripture tells us, can two walk together unless they're in agreement? It also talks about us not being unequally yoked with unbelievers.
Sure.
If you think you can change her, if you think you can change him, and you think you can act like Assistant Holy Spirit, let me tell you something, you're setting yourself up for disaster. You can't bypass, oh my gosh, his beautiful eyes and the biceps and the triceps and the six-pack, but your guy is a heathen and an unbeliever and doesn't want to know about God whom you worship, then you need to pay attention to that. You need to go into a time of prayer, of fasting, of seeking God and asking God for the right direction.
I think foundations are very important, and you're right. People have different philosophies, and that doesn't mean that people, don't evolve and people don't change. But I think what you need to do, especially around some of these fundamental beliefs. So, for example, you come into a relationship and you're going to have differences of opinion on a variety of topics, and some of that is healthy because we're different people. But there are certain fundamental things. So you spoke about, for example, your Christian belief. When you come together with somebody who doesn't share your beliefs, then their entire world philosophy may be very different to yours. They may not see anything wrong with sleeping around. They may not see anything wrong with pornography. They may not see anything wrong with having a side chick. They may not see anything wrong with many of the things that you hold sacrosanct. Are you with me? And so what you have to do is you've got to be mindful of that and be very clear about whether you're prepared to build a long-term relationship with that person. Sarah, you made a very good point. We always believe somehow, and I think women are more prone to this than men, to be honest with you, but there's this belief that, I'll change him along the line. I'm going to convince him to come to my way of thinking. A lot of the times that never happens. And what you find yourself with many, many years into a relationship is somebody who has not changed at all, and you're so frustrated because somehow you thought, I'll shift him inexorably towards my point of view. It doesn't happen, and you get frustrated. So look out for those warning signs. Be clear about what you believe, whether you have some core beliefs that actually attract you to one another, and be clear about whether you can build a relationship off of that.
I think we're at the end of our session.
I think that's a good one.
That's been a good one, right?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for following. Please follow us. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share. And it's great to have you as part of our authentic nation. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Take care.